Hello, this is episode 3 of Type 1 Talk. Type 1 Talk is a resource that discusses major points of what it is like to live with type 1 diabetes. And today we will be discussing school and sports with type 1 diabetes. This week I wanted to talk about school and sports.
Mm-hmm.
That's good with you.
I got stories about that one, man.
You want to start?
Sure. So when I was obviously I was diagnosed like a week left of school when I was in 5th grade. So for there, and I was diagnosed pre anything, so we didn't need to tell the nurse or anything. I was good. Going in the 6th grade, obviously 504 plan and everything like that. Middle school was pretty easy, especially when I got on the pump towards the end of going into leaving 6th grade. So obviously before then I just had to go to the nurse to do insulin shots every single time I wanted to do one, which was quite a walk because I was downstairs of the level. Because my school is set up pretty weird. It's like there's 6th grade hallway, a 7th grade hallway, then an 8th grade hallway, like in the same one, just different sides. But there was 6A downstairs and 6B upstairs. So it was pretty weird. So there was two things, but they were just different levels with different teachers. And the only time they really combined was during specials or electives. So there was that. But other than that, it was pretty easy. If my blood sugar got too low or my parents were getting kind of concerned with my blood sugar, they would just call the nurse and she would call the teacher who would let me know. But eventually got to the point where I got a good phone, an actual good phone. Because I had a really an LG K7, something like that to start off with, which it was not very good with the school Wi-Fi. It was pretty slow. I had terrible storage, but once I got on Dexamine, that my parents just ended up with that. They just ended up texting me "Hey, your blood sugar is whatever. Take some glucose tablets, take a juice, take some insulin," which eventually got annoying because I could be seeing in the middle of doing a test. My parents were just blowing up my phone on there, but I just had a little watch, so I can only really respond yes or no. And a lot of the time it was accidentally click no because the buttons were very small. And my dad's like, "No, what? You gotta take it." I'm just responding. I'm gonna take it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so that was basically all of middle school, except in 7th grade, towards the end, the corona happened. So with that though, school became, I didn't really have to worry about it that much. If I failed a couple class, if I got some wrongs on whatever we were doing, we were fine because my school did it as your grade before we went to break for spring break and before school shut down. That would be your grade towards the end. It would not change. It can't go down. If depending how bad you are, I think the teacher is made of graded some assignments to boost you up a bit, but that was pretty much it. You couldn't go down or anything. So I'd have to worry about that. So my blood sugar levels were fine because my blood sugar levels go crazy with any sort of stress. And it's really bad because I have a lot of anxiety around stupid things. My anxiety is for tests. Normal people's is you have anxiety. Mine's okay, better. Okay. They're just a step up when it comes to that. And of course, that's my blood sugar added to it because I know I will be able to check my blood sugar every single minute during the test.
Yeah.
So that just affects it as it is. It just heightens it a bit more. But during 8th grade, I did full remote, so my blood sugar levels were perfect. If anything, my dad, because he's working from home, he's able to do that, and he still is. So he just came into the room and he just takes some PDM, give me a little bit of insulin, and he just leaves. He doesn't interrupt. So my blood sugar levels were perfect during that time. When I got into freshman year, I was a bit more scared because obviously I didn't know this nurse or anything. On top of really not knowing her, I didn't know how the school would really handle it because it is a private school. So with that, you kind of get the troubles of, well, public schools have to follow 504 plans exactly.
Mhm.
But private schools, they're a little more lenient because they're not controlled by the government.
Yeah.
So that was a little worrisome, and we don't even call them 504 plans now, like at the private school. Like you have diabetes is a diabetes plan. If you have a like an asthma thing, if you asthma, it's called something else. They refer to them exactly what it is. So I feel like that just, I don't know, it just helps like be more direct. Like this person is on a diabetes plan, so right away it kind of tells you what the problem is, and you just look type 1 or type 2, which obviously at this age is only really type 1.
Mhm.
But I mean, I like that because it makes it easier for teachers. Like, okay, this person has diabetes, I know what to do. And it's like right away, they see the person, it's the name. So I really like that. And and I know people said in high school, like, they were able to keep glucose tabs in their lockers, and they were able to go to the lockers when they needed to for glucose. So they're able to carry it around with them a lot easier. And I'm like, that is crazy. I don't think my school would ever do that. Truth is, it's true. Like I can keep glucose tabs in my locker. I can keep little snacks in my locker. They'll be fine. And if the school ever tries to do something with them, like take them, I can be like, hey, I have a diabetes plan. These are my backup supplies if I run out.
Mhm.
And I don't have enough time to go to the nurse. Like if I won't make it downstairs to go to the nurse for whatever reason. So I like it. I always want to have that option. And that's just that. But out of all the diabetics in my school nurse told me that I was the one she saw the least.
Me too.
Like I never went in for my blood sugar one time, like hit 300 and like 40 something, I think. I severely doubt it went that high. I think it hit like 309.
Mhm.
And but I was like, go to the nurse if you need to. I'm like, no, I'm good. This was right after we got out of a pop quiz. And my blood sugar was just rising because it was low. And apparently I took like one too many glucose tabs or something, which is, it happens, but I was doing insulin. And like, so it was like kind of leveling out. And then we had a pop quiz and it's just like going steady. And I'm like, just like pure anger because it was biology. And my biology teacher was so strict. If I am like, I know she'll probably let me do insulin, but like, I don't want to because like, anxiety, man. So that part was not very fun, but like it was just pretty easy. If you had a sub, I remember one time I had a sub, and my Omnipod malfunctioned, so it was making that very annoying sound. That was pretty bad. I told the sub, and she's like, "Come here," and I'm like, "Okay," and she's like, "What do you need?" I'm like, "Oh, my Omnipod is malfunctioning. You can hear the coming from it." And I didn't actually do the sound. I said you can just hear the sound come from it. You hear the sound, like I just need to go to the nurse, quickly change it, and I'll be fine. I'll be back here in like less than 10 minutes. And that I was actually back in like 5.
Yeah.
But like I don't know, maybe they're just more understanding because they do have more. Like, I mean, middle school, I remember there was only one other person in my grade who had it. There was a girl who was a year older than possibly, and the kid who was a year older was newly diagnosed. Like at my middle school, there were no type 1 diabetics at all. But like at my new school, there's at least 4 that I know of, which is just pretty surprising. Like maybe because like again, we are a private school, so we do have people from more like spread across come,
Mhm.
but it's just like, wow, we have less kids than my middle school, and we are 4 grades. Middle school is only 3, but we have more kids. I mean, we have less kids, but more type 1 diabetics. And I'm like, that is just crazy.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, they could be newly diagnosed, but I mean, like, it is just crazy. We have so much more. And I talked to my friend, he goes to the local public school. They have way more kids because they have two schools filtering into the high school. Like you have way more kids. And she told me like she only knows one type 1 diabetic. Out of all of her classes, there was only one kid that has type 1 diabetes in there. And she talked to them if they know anyone else who has it. They said no.
Yeah.
Which it's just crazy. I mean, yes, I only have one other type 1 diabetic in one of my classes, but like I can see people in the hallways wearing Omnipods, wearing Dexcoms. It is just crazy. And then for sports, most people are pretty understanding. That's because one of the co-coaches, helper coaches, I don't know what you call them. She was a nurse, so I was pretty much fine with that. But when my blood sugar went really low, I told her. Apparently, she didn't tell the main or head coach or her co-coach, and so I was being yelled at like, "You gotta say that! Like you're doing softball, you can be kicked out of the game." I'm like, "I told this coach I'm not getting up to walk. My blood sugar is like 48 right now. I'm sitting down. I told my other friend, I'm like, that person could have told you too. That's what I'm saying now. I'm like, my blood sugar is low. Anyone could have told the coach.
Yeah.
I'm like, and it's like, I asked one of my friends, like, hey, I don't know if coach last name knows. I'm pretty sure he does, but can you tell my blood sugar is low for me and I can't bat right now? Apparently, they never told him. I got yelled at.
Yeah.
And that was and I didn't do softball this year because of that and many other things that played a part of it. That I do not want to mention because I don't want to get in trouble. But just more me just being done with it. Like my body was physically exhausted and I was so mentally exhausted because of so many things going on with softball. Because most of the reason was because my parents they had me going to a private batting coach. They wanted I was already pretty good, but they wanted me to like be like the best. So that like pressure was building up too. And it's like, this isn't high school. This isn't whatever. This is just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I started doing it. But then my parents have been forcing me to do it. And like it just has not become fun. And with getting diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, if I was checking my phone because I felt low, I would always get yelled at. Like, stop checking your phone. I'm like, I am checking my blood sugar. And they're always like, sure. I'm like, I am.
I feel
It's
like
like,
sports, as you get older, it just becomes so much more serious when, like, I feel like it's just supposed to be something fun.
I mean, yeah, I get it. If you do for high school, obviously they're going to be competitive because many people do get scholarships for sports in high school. But this is outside of school. You cannot get a scholarship for this.
Yeah.
There is no way you possibly can. And I mean, we were pretty good. Um, I know that we got second place last year. I mean, we were pretty good, but it just with type 1 diabetes and like me getting yelled at for checking my blood sugar and no one really believed me that I was just done with it. Like I
Yeah.
was honestly just done. I'm like, this is gonna go on for another season after that. I'm probably gonna be done forever because it doesn't really go past this age. But it's like I don't want to be yelled at for another season.
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel like no one believes me and that affects me mentally. I'm like, I'm not gonna do this. So my parents were yelling at me for that, like, oh, but you still gotta do some exercises to keep your blood sugar in check.
Yeah.
Blood sugar, I'm like, I will. Like I have a whole plan of what I'm gonna do if I just don't do softball because I'm gonna get yelled at for it. And
Yeah.
my dad was standing right next to a coach when he yelled at me one time and he did nothing. And I'm like, we're trying to fight negativity around diabetes, and you're letting someone yell at a diabetic for checking their blood sugar. It's like that is just, in my opinion, that is just stupid. Like, yes, there are some people diabetics who probably will abuse that and check their phone for whatever. But in reality, it it's like the majority of people, the majority of type 1 diabetics will not be checking their phone for notifications. They'll be doing it for their blood sugar because they feel low or they feel high. And they might not even be. It could just be adrenaline affecting them, which does happen. And it happened to me more often than not. But they're okay.
When you're a diabetic and you're playing sports, like you'll check your phone as quickly as possible or try to correct a low as quickly as possible because you like want to go back to doing the sport or like,
Oh yeah.
like I feel like it's different than if you're like checking your phone and you're not a diabetic, because I don't know, I feel like I just don't want to stand out as much as possible, so I'll just like quickly like get it over with.
Oh yeah. And reality of it, you'll see diabetic turns phones on. If it doesn't show them like right away, because I know on my other phone I could just hit a little icon, it will pop up what my blood sugar is. Now I have to actually like log in, look at it.
Mhm.
Be I do not wear an Apple Watch on the softball field for obvious reasons. I'm like, well, it checks your cardio, but I don't want it to break. So there's that. So I will not wear one on the field. So I actually have to log into my phone to check it. Quickly sees my blood sugar, realizes I need to take juice or whatever, turns it off, throws it in my bag. I'm fine. Unless if I'm low, I'll obviously take it out, tell a coach, and then they'll sit down. But even then, you'll see me, the phone will be like right next to me, but I will not be looking at it. Or if I'm actually checking if I'm like low or something, if I'm high, or if my blood sugar is normal, I will just throw it in my bag as quickly as possible.
Mhm.
Like text it as fast as possible. And it's not like I'm actually standing there like scrolling through somewhere, like standing there for like 5 minutes, where it could be like, okay, this person's definitely on their phone texting someone or something. Like, no, it's literally turn off, throw in. It's like 30-ish seconds at most, maybe a minute. And so you can tell who's just quickly checking their phone or someone who's like actually like looking at their phone.
Also, I'm assuming you don't do it in like an inconvenient time. Like you're not doing it while you're in like in the middle of the field.
Oh yeah, no, if I'm in the middle of the field, it'll be in my bag.
Yeah.
This is when I'm either when I'm in the dugout for softball. When I was in volleyball, oh, it was so much easier. Oh, my volleyball coaches were amazing when I was in volleyball. They'd be like during practice, oh, my blood sugar is low. I'll also be sitting down, looking at like mostly looking at my phone, or if like coaches talking, like I'll just be looking at it. I'll not be looking at my phone, like I'll like check my phone like every like 5 minutes because that's how long it takes for Dexcom to change. So I was really excited now, like check my phone like every 5 minutes. I set a timer just to remind me, so I check it like every single time it changes. There's that. Depending on how low my blood sugar is, I'll just be throwing the ball up to the coach. I'll still be sitting down. But I'll still be participating in some way. Like people are serving, they'll throw it to me, I'll catch it from my seat, and then I'll pass the ball to the coach and he'll do it again. There are people, like either way, I would always still be participating in some spectrum, whether I'm helping out or if I'm just like have to sit down, but I'll still try to get back up as fast as possible.
Yeah. Like you don't want to be low. Lows aren't fun.
Oh yeah, they're not fun. They make you feel like you have no energy. You're just like, I'm dying, but very slowly and like sinking. That's the only way I can really describe it. I think like that's the only way any diabetic can really describe it, because obviously it's different for everyone, but for me it's more of just like no energy, you feel really drained, like you just want to like lay down or like curl up or something. I don't really know how to feel it, like describe the feeling that I have. Like when you have adrenaline, it mashes up. So I always kind of get confused with those two, because adrenaline can make me feel the same way, especially in the heat. So that's why I was checking my phone a little more often during the hotter days. But like, you still want to get confused if I'm just checking my blood sugar, if I'm actually texting people. Like you would not get confused by that.
Yeah.
So what about you?
So when I first got diagnosed, I was 6. and the school I was at did not have a nurse. Um, it was a really small school. There was like 20 people in my grade. I was first grade. There were 2 classes, 10 in my class, 10 in the other class. It was really small. And at the time, the principal of the school, her daughter was a type 1 diabetic. So the staff just in the front knew how to manage it. And so I just go up to the front and one of the staff members would just manage it, like help me manage it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I didn't have a Dexcom until 6th grade at that school. And even then it was just a receiver. I wasn't allowed to have my phone. So it was just, I'd go up whenever I felt low and check it. And then my parents wrote like instructions. If she's between this and this, give her this many units. If she's between this and this, if she's below or above, just call us. And, so that was how it was for like from 1st grade till 6th grade. I got a Dexcom in 6th grade, but it didn't change too much. And then for 7th grade, I switched to another school. And this school was a bit bigger. It was also a private school. These were both private schools. And this private school, like, it was nice because they let me do whatever I want. Like, I could go, like, you just talked with the nurse and created a plan. And because it was a private school, you could do whatever. So I never saw the nurse. Like, at this point, I had been a diabetic for like most of my life. So, like, I was allowed to give myself injections in class. I was allowed to correct when I needed. I never saw the nurse. I'd see the nurse like maybe 4 times a year. Like, I was allowed to keep my insulin in my bag. I was allowed to use my phone. I was allowed to have all my candy in my backpack at school. And that was really nice. And then over COVID, I switched to a public school. And I mean, it was a year online. So I was just managing it from home. It wasn't that bad. And then for 11th grade this year, I started actually in school and the whole 504 plans and everything. And it's a lot different going from private to public. I don't know. It's probably different going from public to private, but like there's lots of rules with a 504 plan. Like, I had to go see the nurse before I left every day. I had to go see her for lunch. We worked something out with the nurse, so I was able to still keep my candy and my insulin in my bag because the school's pretty big. So if I'm low, I don't want to like run to the nurse's office and get more low.
Yeah, that just makes no sense. It would just make you lower.
So yeah. So I was allowed to keep it in my bag, but I still had to go to the nurse. But I could just like eat it and then go to the nurse and tell the nurse. And then also it was a bit different. I'd have to stay in the nurse's office until my Dexcom read that my blood sugar was like back in normal range, or like if I was high, I'd stay in the nurse's office until it went lower, or if it was low, I'd stay until it went higher, which was something, I don't know, like I'd miss like an hour of class just waiting for the 5-minute, readings. So yeah, but eventually I got something worked out, and now I just go see her at lunch, and that's about it. So
What I love about private school is that you can just do your insulin during lunch. You only go to the nurse when you really need to.
Yeah. And also it's flexible. Like if you're newly diagnosed, you can go to the nurse whenever you want. And if you've had type 1 for 10 years, the nurse will just let you do whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just the difference.
Mm-hmm.
I get many people cannot afford private school, but as someone with a medical condition, especially diabetes, I would highly suggest, like, if you can't afford it, go to a private one.
Yes.
They are just so much more understanding. Or unless if your kid is younger, if your kid is younger and a type 1 diabetic, I would suggest public just for the sole purpose of you have to check in with the nurse every time, like a lot of the time, because I would not trust a younger child to give themselves insulin without like this is your carb ratio, without like double checking with them first. Like obviously I know they do their own injections, but just carb ratio, I would prefer for like younger kids, like especially me, younger kids should always have like an adult just double check everything to make sure everything looks okay.
Yeah.
So I feel like that for when you're younger, public school is great, but when you're in high school, it makes no sense for you to go to the nurse and sometimes your blood sugar is low or whatever. Maybe like stop in during lunchtime and say, hey, around this time my blood sugar was low.
Yeah.
I get that, but it's like you have to go through so much more steps to
Yeah.
get that like comfort of I can manage this myself. And I get public school, they want to have the liability if something happens. But it's also like I've had this. I know what I'm doing. I do not need it. Like I get like I want to be more independent, but I get like you like I'm still a child. I'm still minor, but like I can do this, especially if you have like a pump where you can just log in your carbs. It's already programmed. So that's amazing. It's like I get that. But like even then, I like when I was in a public school, I still had to go to the nurse for that.
Yeah. I remember one of my, like, it was like a substitute nurse because the other nurse was gone. And I remember she like was helping me, just making sure I wrote everything down or whatever. And I remember she asked me, does insulin, wait, do you take the insulin for the carbs? And I was like, yes. Why else would I be taking it? Like, isn't diabetes quite common? Like, shouldn't you know this? It was, I was like, okay.
Lack of an medical education, forgetfulness.
I don't
I
know.
you could have like you could forget it, but I mean like it's supposed to be written down for you. Like especially if you're a substitute nurse, it is written down for you.
Yeah, but also like I'm pretty sure nurses have, like, diabetes is quite common, like type 2 and type 1. Like, don't you learn this at some point? Like,
Yeah. Like my cousin is now a registered nurse. They had to learn everything about type 1 diabetes and type 2 and how to tell the difference and like the difference between them. And so you know what's the difference. And it's like, wow. So she confirmed with me everything about type 1 diabetes and more because she wanted to make sure she had everything correct. I'm like, that's cool. Like someone's actually trying to learn this. So that's why if anything happens to my parents, she would be the person for medical needs. Like anything medical related to me, if my parents can't come, she would be like the number one go-to
yeah,
for any medical emergency because she's a nurse.
yeah. But you're older now, so most emergencies you
Yeah, I
medical.
was pass out. First, my blood sugar goes so low. I pass out. My parents are not able to be reached. You call her,
Mhm.
and then you call my aunt,
Yeah,
her mother. So it's like this bunch of stuff. Like if this happens, call this person or then call this person. You can't reach them. Like
yeah.
that maybe it's nice having a nurse in the family for that reason, but it's like you should learn this in med school. Even if you want to be a school nurse, you still have to learn this in med school to be a nurse in general.
Yeah.
So it kind of blows my mind that they don't really know that.
I mean, it was a substitute, so
Yeah, we had substitutes from the office, and still the nurse had things written down, and she had an entire sign of, signs of hypoglycemia, signs of hyperglycemia. For this, you take glucose tabs. For this, you take insulin.
yeah. And there's like 9 diabetics at my school, like type 1. So I don't know,
Yeah.
And then for sports, so my main sport I did was ballet and dance, and I did that since before I was diagnosed till last year. And then my freshman year I did cross country. That was terrible. And then I swam like in middle school and elementary school. And I didn't have too much trouble with my blood sugars with like swimming and ballet because I just did it for so long. I did it before I got diagnosed. And I just would like eat a snack beforehand and then I'd be like good. Cross country, like you'd run 3 miles and I'd have to bring a snack for me during the cross country meets because I knew I'd be low because my blood sugar just would not hold during the 3 mile run. I don't know. Running, like, even if I like think about running, my blood sugar will decide to go low. It's funny, but
And also, like, don't you just hate just having to take a snack when you're not hungry just to make sure your blood sugar doesn't go low because you don't have any glucose tabs on you?
yeah. I got so tired of like peanut butter crackers because I always used to eat those before like swimming or ballet.
Oh man, yeah, those things get old pretty quickly, especially if you have them for a while.
Yeah.
That's why I just always make sure, like wherever I'm going, bring a big pack of glucose tabs because I do not want to be eating most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm one of those people who will like eat very spaciously or eat very little. So I mean, there's just that kind of thing. To where like I would rather take glucose tabs than have to eat because most of the time when I am low, I am not actually hungry.
But when
Um,
you're low, you feel so
oh
hungry.
yeah, yeah. And that's just, and like you want to have glucose tab that eat something, so that's really annoying. That's why if I'm low around the time it's like time to eat, then I'll eat something to correct the low, like an actual like food. But at any other time than that, I will be having glucose tabs because I do not like eating more than I need to. I'm one of those people who would just eat when they're hungry, not eat to not be hungry.
It's so uncomfortable when you're like full, but your blood sugar's low because you're like because of the low blood sugar, you feel like you're starving, but you also
Oh,
feel full.
that is so annoying.
It's so uncomfortable. Yeah.
It's like one of the worst things in the world. And then afterwards, I always feel really sick. Like I'm gonna throw up because I ate. Then I feel super low, like I'm starving. And like I
Yeah.
also like if I do eat, like I could eat like one little cracker, like more than I should be, and I'm like I'm feeling I'm gonna throw up now.
Yeah.
I feel disgusting. Like, or I cannot drink any water because that will I know it will make me feel sick afterwards.
Yeah. Or being like low before a meal. You eat the meal so quickly and I don't know, but I like I don't know, you eat so quickly and then your blood sugar goes up and it's like, oh wait, like now I feel sick. I'm not as hungry anymore.
Yeah, it's just you can never really win at the food game as a diabetic.
I mean, it's an uphill battle.
Yeah, it's more like you can't. A lot of times I find it's like your blood sugar is either going low or it's going high, so you can't really eat to enjoy the meal. Or if your blood sugar is high, you feel like you can't eat as much, even if you are very hungry. So like you'll wait for your blood sugar to come back down to normal, then you'll possibly reheat the food and be like, "This does not taste as good because
My,
it got reheated."
my like eating and like my exercise schedule is based around where my blood sugar is. Like
Oh yeah,
if my blood sugar is like heading low, I'll be like, okay, I can eat lunch now. If my blood sugar is going up, I'll be like, maybe I should like exercise now.
yeah.
So,
And I've noticed, just because of that, like around that, like you're basically dancing around a blood sugar. A lot of the times, like, oh, my blood sugar is has been like 140 most of the day, or my blood sugar has been 80 most of the day. So I cannot really exercise because no matter what I eat, it will refuse to let my blood sugar go high.
yeah.
But that actually happened the other day, where I was just like heading constantly low after low after low. And I'm like, I am just going to eat this little thing because like it's kind of hungry. I'll bounce back up. Okay, I'll put it away now. I'm not really hungry. And then I'll go low again, like I'm actually hungry. And my blood sugar goes low. I'm like, okay, I'll eat a little something. Like I have not eaten an actual meal at all that day. It was more tiny little bits of like fruit or little snacks.
To correct the lows.
Yeah, and my blood sugar did not go high at all that day. The highest was like 120, then it came straight down.
Yeah. I
And
hate
there's other
those
days
days.
where my blood sugar was like 140 on average. And I'm like not eating the entire day and it will not come down. I just remember being so upset. And I was really, it got to the point where my dad was like yelling at me, like, stop eating food. I'm not eating. My blood sugar will not go down. And I'm like, it was not a good day. I almost ended up crying. I'm like, it will not come down. I'm not eating. Ask anyone here what I ate today. Check the security cameras. It will show you I had a little, tiny little cube of a pear.
Some days, like, you dose like a unit and your blood sugar will go to like 40. Other days, you can dose like 10 units and it won't come down.
Oh, yeah. It's not fun. It's just a battle.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to look at it like that, but like the truth is, that's how it is.
Yeah. My blood sugars dictate my life. So.
Oh, yeah. And there's this whole thing of, oh, don't let diabetes define your life. But in reality, like, we don't want it to. Yeah, we don't want it to. But it kind of does.
Yeah.
Like, we'll try to live our life to the best of our abilities. But half the time, we'll have to drop whatever because our blood sugar is too low to do it.
Or too high to do it.
Oh, yeah. Like, I remember one time I wanted to have a friend come over, but I kept hitting low after low after low. And I said, hey, I might need to cancel this. My blood sugar has just been low after low after low today, and I do not feel okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, and I said, then I messaged her. I'm like, hey, I'm feeling a little sick, but it's getting better. Do you want to maybe, is it possible for you to come over maybe like 30 minutes later or an hour later? And she was able to, which is great because something came up in her family that they had to deal with. So then she was going to be make it an hour later either way. So she was fine. But I'm like, I feel really bad because, like, well, what if she didn't have that thing come up?
Yeah.
I'm like, then I'm just like, she could have nothing to do, and I feel terrible about it. But I'm like, it's not my fault. I feel like I was going to throw up, and I do not want to feel sick when a friend is over.
Yeah. It's hard to have fun when you just feel terrible.
Yeah. Like, even like, get like, it's not our fault. Our friends get that, but it's like, doesn't mean that they're not going to be annoyed. Not doesn't mean that we're not going to be annoyed. Like, someone's gonna be annoyed.
Yeah.
And we'll blame ourselves, even though it's not really our fault. It's our blood sugar's fault.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Type 1 Talk. Next week, we will be talking about the highs and lows of type 1 diabetes.